So just to change the topic a little bit, how do you balance, the fun, the work, and being a father? What are some things that you do to, like, you're ever like, hey, this happens to me sometimes. I'm like, damn, I'm focused too much on this. Let me go play with the kids for a little bit. How do you feel about stuff like that?
I feel the easiest way to answer that is one, I don't sleep very much. So that's a life hack that I have. I sleep about 5, 6 hours a night, which is less than the average person. That's why I have time to work out and do the things that I do. But one of the major factors behind it is I make sure that there's nothing that I do that I don't enjoy. I enjoy my work. I enjoy sitting in the office with my brother. I enjoy my nights out. I enjoy seeing my daughter. I enjoy training in the gym because I enjoy everything about my life. And even if it's stressful and even if it's tiring, I feel privileged that I'm allowed and able and in a position to be able to do those things, that I miss everything if I don't do enough of it. Nothing feels like an obligation in my life. Nothing feels like a burden. I'll never do anything I don't want to do. I don't sit here thinking, oh, I haven't seen Eileen in 3 days. Oh, I have to go see her. I like going to see her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't been doing enough work. I better catch up with work. I like doing my work. So, when you enjoy everything you do, you're in a very privileged position. But even if your life isn't, I guess, as enjoyable as mine, people focus too much on the bad. People will go home every day from work thinking, "Oh, I don't want to see my wife today," and they'll argue with your wife. They'll argue with their wife, forgetting that they were once so in love that they decided to commit their entire lives to each other. They forget the good.
Mm-hmm.
They forget the good things, and they don't appreciate them enough. My happiness and my fulfillment and my ability to balance everything comes from how happy I am to do all of the things that I do. Why would I, want to miss out on anything? So I must find a way to balance them, and I must find a way to do enough of all of them because I miss them if I don't do them. And that's my life now. And it doesn't matter what my job is. I work very hard, but now my office is in my house. I can wake up in my underwear, stroll down to my office chair, and sit there smoking cigars with my brother while I'm at the office computer and make insane amounts of money. But I had the same attitude when I was a traveling salesman. I used to work at McDonald's. I worked in fast food. I had the same attitude. I used to go to work. I had all my friends there. I used to laugh and joke. I used to work the drive-through window, try and flirt with women, whatever. I was only 18. I enjoyed everything that I was doing because I felt happy that I was able to do it. Because there are a lot of people in the world nowhere near as fortunate as me. And that includes the 18-year-old boy who's able-bodied and strong, who's working at a McDonald's restaurant for £7 an hour. I mean, nowadays, I wouldn't want to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I understood that I was a very lucky person because I've seen poverty, and I've seen helplessness, and I've seen hopelessness, and I've seen drug addiction. I've seen it all because I come from a horrible town. You want to Google Luton. It's one of the least, I think it's one of the worst town in England to live in 7 times out of the last 10 years. So I've seen all the bad. So I love everything too much. And it sounds like such a cheesy answer.
No, it's a great way to look at things.
Did you feel that you were always the man you are right now? Like, it didn't matter you were poor and low finances, all that. You knew that you would be here one day because your person, who you are, your belief.
Yes. In short, yes.
Okay.
But I also didn't know I thought there were bigger limits to my power. Myself and my brother and the unit that we formed just from being kids together. I didn't understand how powerful that brotherhood and that friendship was. And I didn't understand where it could take us. Because I knew one day I'd do well and I'd have a nice house and a nice car, enough money to spend. But I think that from where I was, I couldn't see the top of the mountains that I'm on now.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some hills in the distance. And it wasn't until I climbed those that I got to see the next mountain. But I always believed in myself. A classic example I give is that my dream car when I was 20 years old was a BMW Z4. A BMW Z4, that's like a $50,000 sports car. It's quite nice, and it's still a respectable car now. If you're a full-grown man and that's the car you drive, you're doing okay with life.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my dream car. Now when I drive past one of them in a $5 million Bugatti, I smile to myself thinking, I thought that was like the limit of my power. So I knew I was going to get somewhere. But I was simply in it was before the internet was around as such. It was before Instagram was around. I didn't know where there was to go. So I never saw myself getting here because I didn't know this existed.
Yeah. How old are you?
34.
Oh, we're same age. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that sentiment. So, like, your father was a chess grandmaster, right?
He was. And
Okay.
in fact, I will say he was not a chess grandmaster. He was an international master, which is the one rank below grandmaster.
Okay.
The reason he was not a grandmaster, because although he defeated hundreds of grandmasters in very famous games across the world, being a chess grandmaster takes a certain level of, if you Google the term GM norm in your spare time, you have to win certain tournaments at certain times. And the people who are able to do this are usually people with sponsorship behind them. The Russian government sponsored a lot of grandmasters. The first black grandmaster of all time was a friend and then a rival of my father's, Maurice Ashley, who's Jamaican, and he was sponsored by the Jamaican government to go and play chess. My father had absolutely no money, 3 kids. He was once, I remember as a kid, working at a car wash with his giant brain and all of his accolades to try and put food on the table. He didn't have the sponsorship behind him to make these tournaments to become a grandmaster. So he was never a grandmaster. The FIDE Federation, there was a petition to make him a grandmaster posthumously after he died. And me and my brother said, no, don't do that, because that would ruin the story of his life. And next year, when I buy a Sunseeker 133 mega yacht, you can Google how much they cost. I'm on the market for one. I'm going to name it the International Master.
Oh.
In his, to his credit, because he was the greatest international master of chess that ever lived, hands down. No one ever became as good as him without becoming a grandmaster. So I'm going to put that story out there because I say grandmaster. He wasn't actually a grandmaster, even though his rating merited it, and all of the opponents he defeated merited it. He was never officially made a grandmaster. He was very smart.
Did he teach you some good things? I mean, do you accredit your success to his teachings at times, or is it more just your failures and life lessons? A little bit of both?
No, 100%. My father was a massive part of why me and my brother were successful. But then again, although, and I love her and she's going to hate me for saying this, although I definitely do get my intellect from my father's side, my mother was equally as important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are the lessons my father taught me about how to be a man, but why did I eat 3 square meals a day? Why, as broke as we were, even living in a homeless shelter, 3 square meals were cooked and prepared for me every single day. My clothes were always clean. My clothes were always washed. I showed up to school looking like all the other kids, despite being, despite being impoverished, because my mother is a very good woman, and she knew exactly how to keep a home. And nowadays, I read all these articles, and I hope not to. You know what? I'm going to offend some people. I offend people every time I talk, so I have no problem with offending people. I read all these articles nowadays, in 2022, about people in England, the United Kingdom, with a strong social system, the system that helped raise me and my brother, with parents and women saying, you know what, I can't afford to feed my kids. I've got 3 kids and the government has us on the poverty line. And, lots of times my kids are going without food and we have to go to food banks and rely on charities. I completely disagree. I don't think that's anything to do with the state of England getting any worse. The state of England has gotten worse in some ways, of course, but the economical state of England has not got so bad that women on the social housing system can't afford to feed their kids. What it is these women are posting things about not being able to feed their kids on the newest 1,000-pound iPhone, smoking cigarettes that cost 25 pounds a packet. My mother never had a cell phone. My mother never smoked. She never went out with her friends. She was solely dedicated to raising her 3 children. As I think we had, and this was a good 25 years ago. This is a long time ago. Well, my mother was at one point, she got £310 a month, which is like $400 a month. And I know things were a bit cheaper back then, but she still had the time to take us to karate classes on a Sunday, for example, for a few pounds. We got 0 pocket money. I couldn't even go in the fridge and eat something out of the fridge because my mother would be like, nope, that's for Thursday's dinner. That's how meticulously planned it was. And that's the importance of a mother. And that's the importance of someone who keeps a very good house. So I do feel that in a lot of interviews, I give a lot of credit to my father, and absolutely, he taught me how to be a man. He taught me a lot of the most important lessons I know in life. But why was I fed? Why were my clothes clean? The fact that I was taken to karate lessons every Sunday as an 8, 9, 10-year-old, and then I found kickboxing and became the European kickboxing champion, that's not my father's doing. I would say that was my mother's doing. So you don't have to be a chess grandmaster genius to have a positive impact on your children's lives. My mother was the backbone of our family. And, I love her. And now she flies around in private jets and can take any vacation anywhere in the world she likes. And I bought her a car the other day, because she earned it.
Right.
She deserved this. This is what the social system in the United Kingdom is supposed to be for. The social system A lot of Americans disagree with it. A lot of American kind of Republican capitalists. But a social system can work very well if it works properly. If you have a woman who is British with 3 British kids who paid British taxes most of her teenage years and early life, suddenly find herself in a very hard situation. If you house them in a homeless shelter, then give them somewhere to live, then give them enough money to eat and enough money to stay alive and not end up homeless or in some sort of children's center, I believe that a good mother, a smart mother, can raise her kids to become successful, smart individuals. I don't want to tell you how much tax I've paid, but when I was certainly with some of the things I do in England, I pay more tax back in a single 2-week period than was ever given to me. So this is how social systems should work, and they should be repaid in full by the kids who get raised to be responsible tax-paying citizens, and everyone should win. But social systems are abused. They're abused by people who don't want to work. They're abused by people who aren't necessarily from that country and not deserving of the taxpayers' money. They're abused so viciously that people end up standing up and saying, you know what, I'm against giving women who, broke up with their husbands free housing because they made their choice. I disagree completely. I stand up for the social system because I know the power of it when it's done correctly. But you need good women to do that. You don't need women chain smoking cigarettes and trying to feed their kids from McDonald's and running out of money because they are irresponsible because they're getting drunk every weekend. You need women who are good homekeepers and good housekeepers who know how to sew buttons onto clothing, basic shit like that. If you don't have women like that, the
I don't know how to sew.
is going to fail.
She doesn't know how to sew.
So I could
I've
figure it out. I
mentioned
could
my mom
figure
used
it
to sew my
out.
pants and fix them.
I'm like, I can.
Learn to sew.
I'm going to.